There you go. Okay, I want to thank all of you for doing your homework. It was wonderful to see what you did, and I can't wait to share it. So your homework assignments were you were to create an image using primary colors, you were to create an image using complementary colors, and then you were to choose a color palette and create an image using that, and then you were to do the basic compositions. So that's what your homework assignment was. And in no particular order, Marie, we're going to start off with you.
Okay.
Which one was this one illustrating?
This one was the color palettes. Those are two calla lilies in front of a rose, and the rose and the two were in my color palette.
Okay. And then I messed up because I didn't understand this was your color palette. So I put it with another photo. Yeah. So I'll show your color palette in just a moment.
I think I did two of them.
Did you?
I might have done two of those. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. That was because I have this little foster dog and when I did the color palette from the website, it must have picked the next photo or something. I thought I was doing a cut and paste, and it sent this little cutie pie.
So you all get to see why she was having trouble with her homework.
I pulled a nail out of his mouth today.
Oh my God.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah.
And then this one was illustrating.
This was, I was trying to do like asymmetric. So I just wanted to, I wasn't sure. I did the orchid through a window, and it wasn't the best shot. So I just came home and I did a second one. So it's asymmetric.
Asymmetrical. And then here was the color palette. I put it with the wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I had to go to a flower store that had that serves coffee.
Yeah.
So it's called Remy's Flower and Coffee. So I went in there. I had gone to the museum the day before thinking they had flowers displayed, and there were none. So I had walked through the whole museum. It was a fabulous day, but I wasted it on no photos.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went to the coffee house the next day. And so this one asymmetrical.
So asymmetrical. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And this was my primary, my blueberries and my yellow. What I did to this picture is I edited it. There was some red in there, so I just took the red out. The sticks were actually
your yellows. And then this is a good example of that entire color palette being in the more subdued colors, as opposed to throwing something bright in here.
Right. Right.
Good job.
Thank you. And this was just my complementary colors, the red and the green.
Uh-huh. And also your asymmetrical.
Yes. I'm asymmetrical. I tried really hard to do things indoors. It was like a -1 degrees in New York. So
yeah,
it was very hard to even take your fingers out of your gloves.
Sure.
And this one was also the same thing. I did complementary colors.
Yeah.
There was a bird, by the way, a bird right next to it that I was taking photos of. This bird, this was off a city street, across the street from the museum. And this bird was so fat, and it was a red robin. And it just sat there eating these red things.
Yeah.
And people were coming by because they couldn't believe the bird would not move. I thought maybe she's pregnant or something. I don't know, because she was so fat.
Yeah, she was fluffed. She was fluffed up, I suspect. Yeah, birds don't get pregnant. We get asked that question all the time. Do they get pregnant with eggs? No, they don't get pregnant with eggs.
They don't, huh?
No.
Well, something was going on with that bird.
Yeah, I think she was fluffed probably, or it was fluffed. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
And then Carol C, here's what you sent me. So tell us what's going on, Carol C.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Primary colors. In the
Uh-huh.
first one, the yellow and the blues. And complimentary was supposed to be orange and purple, or yellow and purple,
Yeah.
and symmetrical.
Uh-huh.
And then my color palette in the that's a nice time for my dogs to start barking.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, my dog can hear hers dog
Yes.
barking.
Sorry about that. Anyway, that was in the color palette on the bottom right hand. And yeah, I don't have a picture of it, but that was the number.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
you can see how well the yellow and the blue go together, and then you throw that purple in there, and it's soothing to the eye. It's easy. You can see that there's a photo there. And then did you do a little squirting on the?
I did. I misted that flower in that one.
Yeah.
I did.
But your background doesn't pull anything away. Your background's got a good color to it. So you did well on that one.
Thank you.
Good job.
I love the color of the one with the palette on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, the background is beautiful.
Lower left, yeah, or lower right, I'm sorry. Yeah, and you see how when it all pulls together, then it's just a pleasing photograph. So we've just got to pay attention to that, to how important that palette is, and making sure
Carol.
that everything's symmetrical. Go ahead, Suzanne.
I was just going to ask, what is the background on that one?
The brick on our house.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And then the same thing up on the top one.
That was, you had mentioned you like the black fleece. And so I
Uh-huh.
just kind of pulled something out of my fabric stash, and it's kind of I literally can't remember what I used it for, but it's some kind of mesh, something that you put in quilts apparently, but, and it was just a piece of scrap of something. And just to try to give it a plain whitish, off-whitish texture in the back.
Good.
So, yeah.
It works.
Just trying to experiment. And then this is a piece of blue fabric
Right up
that-
here.
right up here that I was using
Uh-huh.
and really
Nice.
liked it. So that's why I pulled it out for my primaries. And
Yeah.
I like the contrast between the yellow and the blue.
Mm-hmm. It's very pretty. Yeah. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Carol
Ooh, how-
H, here's yours.
Nice.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay,
Great
so
job.
thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
So the background is a blanket that we have. It's a fleece blanket. You mentioned fleece. So, then I found, well, I had these flowers, and so I'm running around trying to find something in the same color palette. And so I have this orange blanket, and I have a bright blue piece of fleece that I used in my other photo that I'm going to make a blanket out of. But so this is the back side of a Gerber daisy. A Gerber daisy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I really like the undersides of flowers.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It
Who
is
ever
beautiful.
thought?
Yeah, and this is a real good example of that back side of the flower sometimes is really the best part. So good
Yeah.
No,
job on that.
we're
one.
gonna use that idea, Carol.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Carol.
Go for it.
That it is okay to steal somebody's idea or use somebody's idea, because your picture is never going to look the same.
Yeah.
But that's what we're here for, is we just see what somebody else did, and that gives us inspiration, and we go off and do it.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
colors.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Carol,
Um,
I love this one.
Okay, so this is asymmetrical, I'm
Uh-huh.
assuming. It's kind of on it. I tried to get it on an angle. I thought, it makes me feel uncomfortable. And I said, okay, that's what the angle's supposed to do.
Yeah.
sort of give me a little problem. But so I had a couple of different mirrors and I tried them and they didn't work. And since I've been framing my own stuff, my husband has gotten into glass cutting. And so he had an old mirror. So he cut me a piece.
Uh-huh.
It's a real good mirror. And so I laid, this is that same flower. And so I laid it on there and it's inside my soft box. And I took a lot of different angles before I got one that I really, really liked. I tried to get the front,
Uh-huh.
but it just wouldn't work with this flower.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And
Yeah.
the soft box, I asked Carol to leave that soft box behind her because she sent a picture of the how-to with this, which I think is really important. But you notice how soft this light is all the way around it. So Carol, there's a mirror underneath that's reflecting the light up.
Yeah, the flower's lying on the mirror.
The flower's lying on a mirror.
Oh.
How did you get the blue to happen?
So I kind of played with the color temperature a little bit because it would have been a white background. And so I cooled it a little bit and it turned blue and I went, oh, there's my
Yeah.
complementary
There it is,
colors.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful.
yeah. And it is a really, really good mirror because you can't tell that it's a mirror.
Right.
You can't see the reflection.
Yeah, our neighbor was taking it out of their bathroom and they put it in the trash. So my husband got it.
Yeah.
It's heavy. It's really
Yeah.
heavy.
Yeah, it's really good. And there are some little squares of mirrors that you can buy. And I have several of those that, you know, for just this type of thing. But this is really well done. You did a great job on this one, Carol.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, this one I wasn't real happy with, but it does what I needed to do for the assignment. It's the complementary colors. There's my blue fleece in the background. And this is the front side of that flower that I've been photographing the backside. What I liked about this one was the lighting.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it just kind of played off of the background a little bit.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So all these little edge lights are super. And then you got a little bit of light going onto the background.
Mhm.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And then I don't like to do anything normal. So I moved it off to the side. And I like the, I kind of like to do 16:9 crops or just to be different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's just beautiful when you look all the way around it. The edge lighting on all the little petals is very, it just brings it out so much.
Yeah, I moved the lights around a lot.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I like it.
This one I wasn't real happy with, but this is the primary colors, the yellow and the blue. The thing I don't like is that the flowers kind of have some green in the middle of them,
Mhm.
but it is what it is. And there's my blue fleece again. I had the flowers in, I had this little plastic crate that has holes in it that I was using as a prop in my
Uh-huh.
soft box. And so I had to wrap it around the fleece around that to hide it. So
Yeah. And that's a little plastic thing, which we all throw in the recycle bin probably because we get vegetables or something in it. But it's nice because you can put the flower in the little holes. Yeah, so that's a neat little thing. And this is interesting. I like this picture too. First of all, the blue background is just a primary blue. So it doesn't have any little bits of yellow in it or any little bits of red in it. It really is just a blue, really nice blue. And then the yellow flowers, think of them, they're just the most common mums in the grocery store right
Yeah.
now, you know? Yeah, but they're beautiful. Good lighting on that one too. Very, very nice. And then here, when it comes, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. There you go. I'm glad you sent this along, Carol, because this is a real good example of your setup.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is softbox. And these things, by the way, they fold up into a little case. So, you know, it comes in a little case about so big, and then you twist it and it folds up. And then up on top, Carol, you've got a mirror. Or is that just something?
No,
holding
that's-
it steady?
That's part of the softbox.
That's part of the softbox. Okay.
Yeah,
so
one of
there's
those
no,
little
there's no
things.
lighting. And then you've got the ring light.
Yeah, I didn't buy it for that, but I ended up using it for that.
Yeah, yeah. And the ring light gives you that all directional lighting. And that's why people use it on their video calls and that type of stuff. But that ring light now has become really popular for lighting things because it just kind of gives you that rim lighting all the way around. And then I love your light in the back. Is that just a steady light or is that a ring light also?
No, it's just a steady light. I
Steady.
have 2 of those,
Yeah,
and sometimes I can put them on either side, but then I typically find, let's see, did I have a light on top? No, I don't know. I have a Lume Cube that I was using on some of them and laying it on top.
yeah.
But I didn't buy the softbox for this kind of stuff. I had bought it when I was doing some product photography a couple of summers on the Navajo reservation. And so it travels well and it's good for that kind of thing. But
Yeah, I have one. I don't use it that often. But when it works, it works. And it's nice because you can put the lights in from the sides. And so you can use flash to put it in from the sides. I was stepping away to see if I could find my Lume Cube for you real fast. It used to be back there on that windowsill, so it's around here somewhere. But a Lume Cube is just a little LED light about this big.
it's a
So
little
her-
square. This is an old, I think there's a newer model.
Yeah, and that's a little cube, but then you can also get them in rectangles. You can get them bigger. I use them for light painting. So those of you who've been outside with me at night, we use them for light painting, the bigger ones. They're nice. They're steady lights. They're LEDs. They're rechargeable.
They're
Um,
dimmable.
Dimmable, exactly.
If that's a
Exactly.
word.
Yeah. So I like your setup. I think it's a good illustration of how you have to kind of stuff things and use things and move things around and try things
Yeah.
but then you get it. So you did a good job. Thanks
Thank you.
very much for that. Questions on the setup? Anybody?
But awesome photos.
So
I
this
bought the
little,
ring light for video conferencing, but with glasses, it doesn't work well.
yes.
So.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah.
We've 2 years of video conferencing and we've all figured out all the little stuff, the things, but really good job. Any questions from anybody on this one? So you've got now the little plastic box that vegetables came in or that you just buy at the craft store. So now you see all kinds of other stuff that goes with it.
Quite a setup.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Okay, Lynette.
Yes,
Very nice.
I found this palette and I just happen to have this orchid blooming right now. And I thought it fits with the yellows in the middle and kind of some of the petals and lighter purple and the deeper purple in the outer edge. It's a pretty orchid and it has a very nice scent. I thought it fit the palette.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it fits the palette very well.
It's nice.
I hated to cut that one petal. I leave my flowers in their own. I don't cut my flowers, but I did cut this one just so I can get a little bit closer. And
Ah.
I have it sitting in a little bottle just to make it last a little bit longer.
Mhm. It's pretty. And I like your background. What's the background?
I think I was taking that photo outside against our stone.
Yeah. So you see
Outside.
that stone's just a natural background when we start talking about artificial backgrounds. It's good thing to have. Good job. And then here is another color palette that you chose.
I wasn't sure how happy I was with the orchid. So I had gone, you said about you like fleas for your background. And so on Tuesday, I went to Joann's. Somebody gave me a gift card and I said, well, I'm going to use it and go get some fleas for a background. And I just happened to notice that there's a flower shop nearby. So I went and I said, what unusual flowers do you have? And so she pulls this out and I said, oh, I love them.
Yeah.
So, and I came out with this purple cabbage and purple anthurium. I mean,
Yeah.
who would know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love what you did, Lynette. And I want to compliment you too, because, you know, I've had you in class now for nearly 2 years. And this
Oh,
is
boy.
one of the best images that I've seen you create.
Yeah.
So
that's
I
what-
really want to compliment you on that one.
Thank you. Like I said, I was going crazy with this assignment because I kept thinking, oh, maybe I can pull this behind, or I was pulling out my scarves that are colors and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, come on, stop it. I took this photo in a window. I opened my window because some of the photos I took just were not, I was unhappy.
Mhm.
And that's actually my wall behind over there. And I was outside taking the picture through the window.
And, you know, the window light is usually exactly what we need. So it just, you know, hopefully it's just soft enough, but it's beautiful image. You did really nice job on it. It's a nice asymmetrical image too, you know, and so it's got a good flow to it. And then how you drape the pearls on it, I think is really pretty.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, you know, I haven't worn any jewelry for the last 2 years. I might as well put it on my flowers.
Might as well throw them on your flower arrangement.
Yes.
And then this one was,
These were all the flowers that I have. And I said, well, I have to have a picture of all of them. So I might as well just put it in a vase. So just for the composition of symmetrical, I put it that way.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, they're okay.
yep, but it's symmetrical. One side equals the other side. Yeah.
This doesn't look much, but I like this. You taught me how to blur an image and I
Uh-huh.
love it.
I
And
love that.
love that I have the actual rose in the middle. And then you see the blurring on the outside.
Uh-huh.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
how
I called
long,
it diagonal.
and how long you leave the lens steady before you blur it, before you zoom, is how
I
much of an
think I
imprint
counted
you have.
5. 1, 2, 3. I'm trying to think how many seconds that was. It was a long exposure,
Yeah.
but I held it for a while. I think
Uh-huh.
5 was my count.
Yeah.
And then I moved my lens after that.
So what you're doing is you hold the zoom ring, and then she's counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then starting to zoom in or out, whichever one you want to do. And hers, you can see, is just a little bit jerky, and that's why we've got the individual imprints. Or if you made a smoother one, then you get more of a blur out. So it's just something to play with. It's
Cool.
pretty. Then what were you doing, Lynette?
The same flower.
Same flower?
I love taking, especially roses, I guess. I love taking it from the top. And I was reading about flower composition.
Mhm.
And one I came out was a chaos with rule. I guess it's because of the circular
Mhm.
motion of the petals. And I said, what if I put some water on top? What would it
Mhm.
look like? And so I did. And that's what I came out with.
And
I
flat
like it.
flat to the film plane as well. And this is your flat to the film plane, right?
Yes,
Yeah. It's
with
pretty.
your black fleece
Uh-huh.
and a Gerber daisy. My 24 to 35, my 24 to 105 just don't get more specific with the petals, but oh well. My primary color, red,
Mm-hmm.
with some of the yellows and blues on
Mhm.
the satchel. and the yellow beads. So my primary color.
And then nothing out of color palette. So your color palette is exactly what it should be. So nothing's out of harmony with each other.
Again, my blue fleece and the Gerber daisy. I love the Gerber daisy.
Mhm.
And to me, I've made this as asymmetrical composition.
Mhm.
And when I looked at the photo, I said, wow, it says good morning sunshine. So I just added good morning over there.
Very good.
It's the red and the blue,
Yep.
primary color. Of course, it's not your blue. It's almost like, I don't know, but like, to me, it's blue.
Almost moving into the complementaries because it's sort of shifted in the color palette just a bit. Is it the same Gerber daisy as in the previous
Yes.
photo?
Yes,
So it's white balance. And where Carol was playing with the white balance on her photo to get that blue background, this you would play with the white balance to get the blue back and the red back. So you'd move the white balance sliders.
Hmm.
But it's pretty like this. I like it. And then here's your orchid before you cut it.
This is my orchid before I cut it. And I called it my diagonal.
Yeah.
Composition.
Mm-hmm.
And what did I call this? I'm trying to think. It's the same flowers without
So-
the,
So a
Excellent.
horizontal
the-
composition.
but they're also complementary colors though,
Mhm.
because of the yellows and the purples.
Yeah.
And they're deeper purples, not the Irish that Carol had, blue.
Beautiful. Okay,
Ooh.
Suzanne.
Yeah, I'm not as creative with flowers as you all are. Mine are all just kind of clumped together, but yeah, so this is the palette. So you obviously see the colors on the left-hand side. And so when I bought the flowers, they actually came with the turquoise blue paper
Ah,
wrapped around them. So I was like, oh, I could put that. So I kind of just tied it around the back of the flowers. And I think this one I just laid down on my, we have a patio outside and just laid it down on the ground there and took this one. And yeah, I kept rotating the flowers around, getting the yellow in a different position. And that was my different types of pictures I took, but I landed with this one.
Isn't
I
it-
love that one.
Yeah, I think it's pretty.
I would hang that one on my wall.
Oh. Yeah, I like zooming. I like getting right in the flowers. And then sometimes I think, well, I do that and that starts to make it go a little blurry too. So I just need to be thinking better when I take the picture to try and zoom in on the original first so
Mhm.
that it stays crisper, but this one actually was crisp. There's another one I think in here that when I cropped it, it got a little, you couldn't really pinpoint exactly where the focal point was, in my view anyway.
Isn't it
Yeah.
interesting also how Suzanne picked up the bouquet of flowers and they had already put the appropriate color of wrap on
Yeah.
it? And then when Lynette went in and said, hand me some flowers, the florist who's looking at colors every single day just picks up the colors that go together.
Yeah.
And so people that work with this on a daily basis just don't even think about it. And then other people, we have to actually pull out the little chart and, try to match them all. So it's one of those things we're trying to develop in our head, is that color knowledge.
And what I liked about this one, I actually did zoom in later onto that kind of the pale orange one on the top right-hand side, and it stayed really crisp and you could see all the lines and the petals and everything. So I was like, oh, I might do a crop on that one too later.
Good. Yeah, it looks crisp.
So this is the primary colors. And so I actually had my husband holding the flowers. Originally, I thought about trying to have his hand actually in the photo. I got it right up, got him to move it all the way up and try and put his hand actually in the photo, but it just didn't work. And originally I had the background as just our wall,
Mhm.
and it kind of washed out a little. And then of course my husband's like, well, what about over here? And we have a painting of a Buddha that's like 6 foot by 4 foot.
Uh-huh.
And he went over and put the flowers like on the cheek of the Buddha, and that's the background there that you see. It's actually in the painting that's on our walls. So it kind of just made those colors a little bit more dramatic as well. So I liked it. This is the one that got a little blurry because I cropped it, but
Yeah. Looks pretty though. And you're right, that background goes with it.
so I need to take him everywhere with me.
He helped you in the night class too.
He did. He helped with the night flash, a whole bunch of things. The
He's a good-
wires up the flowers.
he's a good camera handler.
Yeah, he
Camera
is.
sharper.
Yeah. So this is the complementary yellow and purple. We have a garden bed that's got pebbles on the garden. So again, I just laid these on. You can see the stones kind of around the edges that got a little blurry there. So I put them on there, and just
And
took that.
this is one where you could have pulled it away from the stones, so the stones would have then just been blurred. And then also this bloom right here,
Oh, yeah.
since it's not as perfect as this one, because this one's so pretty, it just pulls your eye to it. This bloom right here might have been better either turned properly or even taken out,
Yeah.
because he's getting a little wonky there.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this one right here is really, really pretty. It looks nice and sharp to me.
Yeah, that one was quite sharp.
Yeah, so just a little softer background on that.
Yeah. Oh, my cat, my cat. So I have 5 cats, but and so anytime I go outside, they all appear. And this one, she's the constant poser. I could show you another 6 pictures where I had those other 2 photos lying on the ground. She's like in the flowers and rolling in them and everything. So this was the composition. So
Asymmetrical.
I did it asymmetrical, yeah. So she sat there and posed. So I was like, okay, well, I'll take a picture of you. And
I know if the photography gods send it to you, use it,
Yeah.
But I like that we've got, orange and green, obviously, but
Yeah.
then we're pulling in that same green of her eyes.
yeah,
And then
Yeah.
the bricks, luckily, are not totally out of the color palette.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I think you worked it. Here she is again, being cute.
Yeah. So now she's actually got her paw on that leaf that was kind of a little bit on her face. She's kind of like even pulling it down, like, okay, I'll get it out of the way. And she's posing. So yeah.
Yeah. So you did a good job on that one. If we could have got our eyes facing the camera, it would have been
Yeah.
a million times better. But
Yeah.
she's working the picture. Yeah.
She's doing her aloof thing. Yeah.
Good job. Good job.
Hmm.
Okay. Questions for each other on your homework? I think you all did a fabulous job. That was really a neat thing to go through. No question?
Kathy, I feel like I have no time. It's not to, I'm just saying, I think I can actually do better.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I always feel like I'm just one day behind
Mhm,
on all
mhm.
these.
Yeah,
Which is great to have the recordings and stuff like that, though,
good.
because I
You
go
know,
back and I get out
and
again.
If it makes you feel any better when I'm working on an assignment or a project that I have to finish, for a client or something like that, I always feel as if I had one more day, I would have done better.
Right.
And I always feel like, especially after I'm finished, I put everything away and then my brain flashes with, oh, you should have done this. I always feel like I could have done a little bit better.
Do you also feel like you take so many pictures sometimes that you miss a couple that might be great, but in there?
Yeah.
Like I feel like I have to go back and look at my 30,000 pictures to see if I'm missing something.
Yeah. For instance, Carol H in the lights, how many pictures did you take?
I don't know. It's too many.
But just to make Marie feel better, how many pictures did you take?
Oh,
Not one
I
or
would-
two.
probably 20 or 30, just to go through. And then I worked
Okay.
over a couple of days on it because, you get to a point where you're like, it's not working, and I have to walk away. But then I came back and I was like, okay, well, the flowers open up and then things look a little different. The light outside's different. And yeah, I trashed a lot, but you're right. There are some. So the first time they don't look right, but then in a couple of days, when I go back and look at them, I might feel differently about them.
Mhm.
Right. That
Mhm.
too. Yeah.
But this type of homework assignment is just valuable. This is what you do in a lot of camera clubs. There's one more advanced camera club here in Houston that I work with, and there are 4 mentors. I'm one of them, and we give them assignments at the beginning of the year. Like I give them obscure assignments, like a touch of the holidays, and that's all I say. And they create what they create. So it's interesting. So sometimes it's the inspiration of a class like this, or it's in the camera club, or it's even just you looking at somebody's picture and then trying to recreate it.
So that's really a good point, because I'll find, I look at things and I'm looking at things, and there aren't a lot of photographers necessarily around here that are doing what I'm doing. So I spend my time with painters.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then what I find when I'm out in the field, I go, oh, this looks kind of like what I've seen before. And now, and so everything you do is, you learn from and file away.
That's right. And you file it away. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
know,
lesson
Kathy-
3. So take that as inspiration. Yeah. Lynette?
You talk about camera club. I feel like I need more camera time,
Yes.
and I've never thought about camera club.
And there are
So-
camera clubs everywhere. Carol's in one up in her area, but there are, and Marie, you've got a camera club down at Lincoln Center. But there are camera clubs everywhere. And the wonderful thing about them is that they have field trips that might just take you someplace that you've never been before. I saw one of the camera clubs locally is going to the Painted Churches in Schulenburg over the weekend. So, it's just, and it's getting out with other photographers and just getting their stimulation and seeing what they're doing or using their lenses. Carol C's got is Matt your nephew, Carol C?
Yes.
Yeah, so Matt had a lens I haven't ever tried before. So, I got to use his lens when we were outside and run around and photograph with a lens I haven't bought yet. So, it's just that cross-pollination that helps.
I have to look around.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you remind me, I'll send you a list, because I have a list of a lot of the camera clubs that are in the Houston area.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Like
each one of
a
them's
copy.
different. They've all got different personalities.
I'd like a copy too, because it's just nice to be able to go out and be somewhere where there's other people.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're safe.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and like you say, they sometimes go to unusual places that you wouldn't have thought to go. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Share it
learned
with
a
all
lot
of the-
from you in
Okay.
Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And the Christmas photography that you did.
Oh,
I
yeah, the
love
holiday
those.
lights.
I love those.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to go to Big Bend with you.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll go to Big Bend in August. Yeah. So it's just, it's just being around people. It's amazing because Carol H., I know you've been out with a lot of different photography groups, but it's like somebody sees something and you steal it, but your picture never really looks the same. You just stole the idea, we borrowed it. So
We're inspired by it.
we're
Mhm.
inspired by it. Exactly. Exactly. So today's lesson, we're going to talk about shooting through flowers. So having enough flowers that we can shoot through flowers, having flowers in the front blurred, flowers in the back blurred, but then shooting through those flowers. So this, by the way, the first picture, this, by the way, is a 70 to 200 millimeter lens, professional line by Canon. And it's the f4, not the 2.8, because the 2.8 is very heavy, but it's the f4. And it gives you this beautiful, pure, blurred out background. And Canon makes them, Nikon makes them, Olympus makes them. But it's this kind of almost the perfect millimeters for being able to blur out the foreground, plus blur out the background, and make it look as though we're shooting through net or gauze or something like that. And this just gives us a new look at things. So shooting through flowers to get to something else, shooting through a bunch of flowers to get to something else. And this is nice when we're working in a garden that's in full bloom, not right now, but, you know, give us a couple of months and we'll have one of these, but then we can shoot through a lot of different flowers in the flower bed to create the images that we're looking for. When I was in this Mexican hat field, this whole field was like, you know, a couple of acres of nothing but Mexican hats. So it was beautiful just to get down on the ground and just start picking out different flowers. I would have liked to have taken out this one, obviously, but just, you know, playing around with shooting through them, playing around with shooting through all the way to the back, and just getting that image of multiple layers of flowers and shooting through it. It also applies when we're doing something like our birds. So shooting through to get the little ruby-throated hummingbird sitting on the fence, shooting through all those blooms in the foreground. And then playing around again. So this is a fun thing to do. And then isolating one aspect of a bloom. So you need to be able to get your camera to focus on a small area. And I know all of you all, with the equipment you're using, you shouldn't have any trouble getting this at all. So just putting that one individual focus point, putting it exactly where you want it, and not having that camera focus on something else that you don't want it to. So it's that ability to move those focus points around. I know we talked about that in basic photography for all of you all. Carol H., I know you know how to do this, but it's being able to move that tiny little focus point around just where we need it to be, and getting that isolation of that focus. So just putting it where we need it to be and being able to isolate that focus. You also, I don't think you realize that how many people do not know how to isolate their focus, because they still shoot with all their focus points activated, and they don't know how to tell the camera, just focus on that little part right there to create the image that you're looking for. Just photograph on that little point right there to get the image that you're looking for. Down in Costa Rica, these calla lilies grow as hedges. And for me as a photographer, it's hard sometimes to leave because there's just so many pictures to be had. And as we talked about in macro photography, some of you all might have taken that class. Every species of plant pools water in a specific way. So the canna lily, for instance, when the water drips off of it, then it comes down to this little curl and it drips right off of there. So every species of plant has a drainage pattern on it. And some of them pool this type of water. It's one of those botany things that you learn, so that the drops of water are right up on top. And then other plants don't do this at all. So isolating where we want the viewer's eye to go and putting the viewer's eye right where we need it to go with our focus point. So getting it right where we need it to go. And you notice if you look really closely right here, this area of the rose is not in focus. And that's where the focus point should be. So this is one where where even though I like the composition, I think I did a good job on it. No, it's because the focus point really should have been right there on that bud. And if you look real close, it's not there, which draws away from the photograph and doesn't enhance it. So you need to make sure you can get that focus point right where you need it to be and focus on small areas and get your camera to focus on small areas, whatever way you're working with it, whether this is animal eye focus or whether it's just a single point, you need to be able to get that focus point right where you need it. So questions on those focus points in the small areas?
Kathy, what settings would you have your camera on?
This one is
f-stop
a
would be-
this one's a narrow f-stop because it's a Texan crescent. So he's, you know, he's only about an inch. So it's a narrow f-stop. So this is probably only about a 5.6.
Okay.
And then I'm using a telephoto here. So I think I'm probably in the 400 millimeter range on this one. And then that far off background allows me to blow it out and blur that background, but then just keeping that focus point right on the Texan crescent's little face.
Do you always have a tripod?
No, this is handheld. Especially with these butterflies, sometimes they're moving around pretty fast.
Right.
Now, it's winter time, so we have, all of our cities have a butterfly center in them or a butterfly house. Here in Houston, it's Cockrell. I know in New York, you've got them. And all of these butterflies, by the way, are in there because they move slowly and they're colorful. So it's a good wintertime place to go photograph butterflies. Even though on a sunny day down here, we've got butterflies flying all over the place.
That's probably the museum I should have went to instead of the Met. I should
Yeah,
have gone
that's
to
true, because it would have had
Yeah.
blooms in it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So keeping that focus point right where you need it to accentuate your subject. And then this gladiola, the background, is just another gladiola that was in the bunch. So just taking one gladiola, putting it in another vase behind my gladiola, and then that creates my background. So now we're talking about backgrounds and artificial backgrounds. So this in this case was just taking a couple of the flowers out of the bouquet and just moving them away so that we could blow out the background. And just outside, a little bit of rain, a little bit of misting, and we'll talk about misting in just a little bit also. But then if I take my black fleece or my black velvet and I drape it over those flowers in the background, the rest of the bouquet, now I've created that solid black background. And this used to be out of favor because a lot of the photography we had to do in the 60s and the 70s, especially macro photography, because of the lighting situations that we could photograph under, we did a lot of work under black backgrounds because many times that was just the way we had to do it. Then it kind of fell out of favor. I equate it with the black velvet Elvis paintings that, you know, were cool for a while, but then they fall out of favor. So the black velvet fell out of favor. And now we're seeing it a lot more just as a nice artificial background. This does sometimes need a little bit of cleanup. And Carol H., you talked a little bit about cleaning up on some of your photo. The black velvet sometimes needs a little bit of cleaning up. So you might have to move your contrast slider a little bit more to make the background blacker without affecting the flower itself. Or you might have to go back there with a healing brush and kind of paint some of the background a little bit. So you might have to do a little bit of cleanup in this situation. But this is just natural sunlight with the black velvet or fleece in the background. And then I also added a vignette to it. And a vignette is in your effects slider way down at the bottom of your Lightroom or your Adobe Camera Raw. So that just adds a black rim around your photograph. So just a little bit of post-processing to kind of pull it out. And then artificial backgrounds, you all are already starting to go in there. You're already starting to figure this out. But there's all kinds of stuff you can use. This is the cellophane wrapper of Scott's toilet paper. And the blue is the logo from Scott's. And because that cellophane wrapper that comes around the big rolls of toilet paper, I cut it out and I wet it and stuck it to my window so the sunlight could shine through it. And then you can kind of see a little bit of that going on in the drop there. And then I just hung the tulip upside down. And as I told you, every flower and every piece of vegetation has a drainage pattern. So if you keep squirting, misting the tulip, eventually the water drops accumulate right on the bottom because that's the drainage pattern of a tulip. So not every flower will give you those big drops, but tulips definitely will. So this is simply just a wrapper off of something in the house that's cellophane, and I wet it and stuck it to the window. Something I learned when I was a child, that if you took a piece of wet wrapping and stuck it to the window, it'll stay there for a long time. So yeah, one of those lessons you learn. Same tulip, and this is the logo off of Bounty paper towels. So just going through the house, finding something, but this lets the light shine through. And so it's a way that we can get a lighted background instead of having to put that cloth background. And then spraying it with the dew, the little mister, until we get things bubbling up. If you spray, by the way, too much, then your flower is just soaking wet and we don't get any nice little water drops showing up on it. So be gentle with it. Don't spray it too much. Or then dry it off and try again, or get another flower. So questions on different kinds of artificial backgrounds? And watch out for the color harmony also. Anybody know any other background? Oh, by the way, I forgot about that. So I also am photographing blurred photos outside, or when my camera doesn't photograph and I took the picture and I get a blurred photo, I save those as backgrounds. I call them backgrounds. And I use these when I photograph hummingbirds. So when we were in Costa Rica and we were photographing hummingbirds under the multiple lights, I had a couple of blurred photos from that garden. So it was the exact same color harmony as that garden would be. And so they were easy to use. And then I just print them off as 16 by 11s or something like that. And those are my backgrounds whenever I need artificial backgrounds. Yes. So I just send them to Kinko's, FedEx Kinko's, and they print them for me. And sometimes I get them mounted on foam board so that they don't wrinkle. And then other times I use them rolled up, and that way they travel a little bit better. Any other things you all have used as backgrounds that work well? No?
I'm wondering if glass would work well.
Glass will work well. It gets pretty shiny, but glass works well.
Old wood.
Yeah, old wood works well. Yeah, yeah. And you've seen that rocks work well from your rock houses. So your next thing is focus stacking. And a lot of your cameras, the R's, do focus stacking. Carol, your camera does focus stacking. So Canon calls this focus bracketing, but everybody else calls it focus stacking. And what you're doing with focus stacking is this is just a little bitty movie of all the images. So this is just, and I'll replay it for you. There you go. It just replays, I think, on its own. I start photographing at the very beginning and then just keep photographing back into the Sotol and then blend them all together in one photograph. So if your camera does this, you can start on the beginning of the plant and then take like 10 pictures under focus bracketing or focus stacking, and it will move the focus straight through. Or you can just focus on different areas if you want to. And then when you blend them, then you get that maximum amount of depth of field. So this is a peacock feather against the black again, and it's kind of angled toward the camera. And then I'm focused right in here, but you notice it drops off back here and it drops off right here. So if I take the same photo, but I focus here and 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 here, and then stack them, that's what the photo looks like.
Hmm.
So 5.6 or 8 depth of field, and that's focus stacked. So focus stacking is a way for you to maximize and show more depth of field than what we could get naturally. And Carol, your camera does this in camera, or Carol H, that your Olympus does this in camera, or you can leave them as pieces, right?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. And then Lynette and Carol C in the R's, same thing. You can ask it to blend in camera, or you can leave the pictures as pieces, and then we can blend them afterwards in software. And then Marie, does yours do, which, you're on the
7D.
you're on the R5, aren't you?
7D.
You're on the 7D. Okay, you and Suzanne, I don't think yours does. So you're just going to have to physically focus.
Okay.
Okay. And so as an example, this is a blend of 6 different photos. And this is a Scarlet Bouvardia out in the Big Bend region. It's a desert bloom. And it's really, really difficult to get all of the little blooms in the same focus plane without also showing the background, because the thing, you know, is kind of like this, and it has blooms going in every different direction. So it's very difficult to get all the blooms in focus. And so with this photo, what I did was I took 6 photos and then I blended it. And if you look really, really closely, there's a little smudge right here. There's a little smudge right here. See that? And there's a little smudge right here, but it got the software got the little spider web, but I get a little bit of off right here, and a little bit off right here, and a little bit off right here. And that does happen when we do focus blends or focus stacks. And sometimes we have to do them several times to let the software get it right. So in this photograph, watch what I did. So in this picture, I probably focused on this flower. I'm not sure, but these are the 6 pictures I used. And in each picture, I focused on a different flower. So now I'm right over here. And you notice this one's out of focus. And then this one is probably focused back in here or something like that. So I'm just focusing on each one of the flowers. And then for good measure, and this is on a tripod, I did an F22 just to give me some depth of field in there. But, you know, it still didn't do me much good. And then when I blended them, I got the photograph that I showed you originally. So you see that each one of those photos just has a focus point slightly different. And then I blended them all together. There we go. This is another one, and this is with the camera blending it or stacking it. And I don't think I did a really good job, but also I didn't do a great job focusing on the flower closest to me. Always make sure that you focus on the thing closest to you to begin. Don't start back in here, start back here. So whatever is the flower closest to you, start there. And then here are all the different little pieces. There you go. And then I focused them all, I stacked them all together. But once again, I don't think I did a very good job because this one right in here is not in focus. So this is a focus stack of what as well. And this is a little metal mark down in Big Bend. It's about 1 inch across. So it's mighty small. It was basking in the shade on a really, really hot day. And I knew that if I photographed it straight down, trying to get it as flat to the film plane, remember flat to the film plane from last class? I tried to get it as flat to the film plane, but I thought I would probably do a little bit better job if I focused stacked. And so I focused here, 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 because it's raised, and here, and then I blended them all together. So even though he's pretty parallel to the camera, I went ahead and I did a focus stack on this one as well. You can tell that I didn't do a real good blend because there's a little divot right here out of the stick in the back, right here. And I think there's a little divot right up in here as well. But then
So were
this
you
is
doing-
just, go ahead.
I was going to say, were you doing that freehand?
Yeah, I did this one freehand because he's not moving and the camera's pretty much stable. And so what I'm just doing is I'm moving my focus point around with my thumb and then moving my focus point around and then hand holding the camera. Not the ideal way to do it, but it was 110 degrees and I didn't want to walk across the asphalt to get my tripod and then set my tripod up. So I just thought, what the heck?
You look like you might have focused on his antennas as well.
I focused on the head and then luckily he's holding his antennas pretty straight.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So you can use focus stacking on really, really tiny subjects. And then you can also do focus stacking on images you might already have in your files. So this, once again, is a pretty tiny little yellow butterfly. That's his name, Little Yellow. So you know that he's really small. And this is a blend of two images because the first picture I took, his wingtips were out of focus. I focused here. And then holding the camera again, I took another picture and his wingtips are in focus. So when I blended them together, I had one picture with his body in focus and one picture with his wingtips in focus. And when I blended it together, I get a really nice focus stack. But notice there's this little blurry place right here on those antennas. And that's a little tiny place that the software didn't blend well. So you might have to try again. You might have to try again, let it redo several times and then see if you can get it a little bit more perfect. And then I even tried going in, since I'm only working with two pictures, going in there and doing a little bit of layer. I never got it perfect.
So I haven't bought any program stuff yet. So do you put the two photos in and then the program tries to match them up, or are you physically taking one photo and keep moving it until you've got it exactly over the top of the
Nah,
image?
it's easier than that. So I sent you instructions this morning and you can do
Oh.
this in either Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw, and
Yeah, I
you
don't know
load
either.
them into layers. So that sends it over to Photoshop as a layer. And then you select all the pictures that are in the layer and you make sure that it's working with all of them, and you do an edit align and it aligns them for you. And then you do an edit blend and it blends.
Okay.
So you
So-
take 5 pictures, say, and then you go to the software and you say blend them
Uh-huh,
in simple terms.
sure. And it does
Okay.
that.
Great.
So this little dayflower, I focused here, 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 and I focused back here. And don't ask me why I didn't keep going. I just didn't keep going. Temporary moment of insanity. And then when I blended them, because this, little dayflowers, we have them in all the geographic ranges of the United States, but they're a very three-dimensional bloom. There's no flat to the film plane on this bloom at all. So it's a difficult bloom to get the whole thing in focus. So this is a perfect example of where we would focus stack, starting at that very front, what's showing toward the camera, all the way back. And then I focus stack this. So this is about 5 pictures or about 6 pictures. Carol H, have you done focus stacking?
Just a little
Okay.
bit. I normally don't have a tripod with me. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that's the same thing that I was doing with those butterflies is, you know, I'm not necessarily carrying a tripod with me. These new cameras with the autofocus bracketing have made this super, super easy to do. So when we were doing the small little frogs in Costa Rica, for instance, I would just click. And once you click once, the new cameras, they automatically take the 10 pictures. So all you have to do is just hold it steady. So Carol C and Lynette on your R5s or your Rs, just remember, once you push the button once, it's taking 10 pictures.
What is the setting called? I'll look for it.
Focus bracket.
Okay.
And with each one of these, Carol H, I've used your Olympus also to do these. You tell it how far away do you want it to focus and how many do you want it to focus. So if we were doing a landscape, we would tell it to focus further away between each shot. If we were doing a small flower, we would compress that. We wouldn't tell it to focus as far away. So many times you have to kind of trial and error to figure out how far away do we want it to focus stack.
Okay.
But I have, you know, and then we have to blend these. So don't get too crazy, because I did, when I was using Matt's lens out in Big Bend, his macro lens, I was doing a whole lot of focus stacking, but that means I have to bring them all into software, load them into layers, wait for it to work, and then see whether I got anything. And I've probably got about 50 or 60 of those that I haven't even worked on. Because, you know, after a while, it's like, okay, that one looked exactly like the other one, you know? So sometimes I just shoot too much. But focus stacking is a really neat thing. And there's some beautiful stuff. There are people now that are taking grains of sand from the seashore that have been rounded by the wave action, and they're stacking them on top of each other. And then they're doing focus stacks so that you can see with the light coming through some of the translucent grains. So one of these days when I'm down at the seashore, I'm going to pick up some sand, you know, and then beat my head against a wall trying to photograph that, you know. But that's tiny, but that's the type of stuff we do focus stacking on. So it works on flowers, but it also works on all kinds of stuff. So your exercises for this lesson, I would like you to shoot through flowers at a subject on the end, and don't beat your head against a wall. Suzanne, if that means that you've got a bouquet of flowers and the cat's way at the back, then focus on the cat, okay?
Yep.
Or Marie, the little dog is asleep finally, then put some flowers in front of it and focus on the dog behind the
That's a
flowers.
good idea.
Okay, so, you know, don't beat your head against a wall on this one, but take it with one lens and then take it with another lens. So maybe start out with maybe your medium wide angle or your wide angle, and then try it also on one of your telephoto lenses to see the difference between this. And then isolate one aspect of a bloom with one lens, do the same with another lens that you own, or maybe an extension tube, or Lynette, if you get your close-up filter, maybe with an close-up filter. Okay.
If it gets here.
If it gets there, exactly. And then try your hand at using an artificial background. Y'all have already done this pretty well, but try another artificial background and make sure that you stay within color harmony. And then I want you to try focus stacking. And once again, I sent you the instructions. All of you all have the software. I know you do. No, Suzanne?
I have not bought it yet, but this will be the catalyst to get my act
Okay,
together
this
and get it
will
bought.
be the one to get your subscription to your
There we go.
Adobe. Yeah, get your subscription to Adobe. Now on focus stacking, by the way, if you get really crazy with this, there are other softwares you can use like Helicon Focus. This costs $99. I've never ended up buying it. But I've got friends that do things like photograph cactus blooms, because, you know, the cactus only blooms every once in a while. And they might do 120 photos of a big cactus bloom to get it from front all the way to back. And then they blend it in software. So there are other softwares you can use if you find that you love it. I think the Adobe product does a pretty good job. So either Lightroom or Photoshop, I think it does a pretty good job. Okay, questions on your homework?
Did you send us lesson 3 to print that out?
It should be in your handout.
Okay, I just took a picture of it. I didn't realize I have that handout.
Yeah, I sent it to you in the very beginning
Okay.
of class. Do I need to send it to you again, Carol?
You sent it at the beginning of this class?
Uh-huh, at the beginning
Okay.
of the whole series.
I'll look again.
Okay, okay, let me know if you need it, okay, and I'll send it to
Okay.
you again.
Okay.
Do I need to send anything to anybody else?
So for focus stacking, you just want the final image, right?
Yeah, just the final image, unless it's a good illustration of how far you went or what you did. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and by the way, those of you that are sending me PDFs, Carol, when Carol C, you sent me a PDF of all your homework assignments, which turned out to work out pretty well. That was a good one. But if you're sending me your individual pictures as PDFs, go ahead and make them JPEGs instead of PDFs. The PDFs go in PowerPoint, okay, but just go ahead and make them JPEGs. Okay, questions?
All right.
I can't wait to
No.
see what you do. Have a
I
good
know.
time.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. And I will send you the recording.